We knew what we wanted to do, we knew what we were trying to achieve, and I think that was just a pat on the back to say, yeah, you guys have done it. To achieve that, I'm forever grateful for my team for believing in the vision that we had when we came over here and trusting in what we were trying to do. So I think that's, to achieve 3 hats in the first year is just is all down to my team at the end of the day.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. We have amazing restaurants in Australia and some that have been a shining light on the world stage. But what's it like taking an award-winning restaurant from one country and translating that into the Australian dining scene? Alan Stuart is the head chef of Encore by Clare Smyth in Sydney. Alan, how are you?
Good. Thank you for your time.
It's good to get you on the show. You've had quite an entrance into the Australian dining landscape and received a lot of awards just recently. What's it been like?
Crazy. It's been full on. It's been a crazy 2 years moving over here. It's been a lot of challenges, but it's been good to see it all pay off.
What's it been like creating a restaurant in Australia? I know you spent a lot of time in the UK, which we'll get into, but do you approach things a lot differently to what you would have in London?
I think just running the kitchen and the way about going about it in a hotel is very different. But I think I learned a lot of how to manage that from moving to different countries, working in the States and working at Madison Park. You have to run on several teams to make it happen, and I think I sort of learned that from working at 11 Madison Park on that style of management. But I think through all my travels, it's allowed me to take different parts of management and be able to implement it over here.
The restaurant's owned by Clare Smyth, but she's not here all the time, and you're left sort of running the ship. What's the communication like? What's the autonomy that you have in regards to dish creation and her involvement?
It's constantly me talking to her a lot, be it over Zoom chats when we first were getting open, or just me giving her a call or a text and talking about new produce and what's coming in. Even when we were first opening the restaurant, Claire wasn't able to make it over for opening because of COVID. So we had to put a dish on the menu that she'd never tried before. And people asked me what that was like, and I said, well, I have so many good people around me within my team that I trust them to be able to tell me if it's right or if it's wrong, or if it's a good dish or not. And I think that's how we often go about dish development when Claire isn't able to get over.
You're an Antipodean, but what was it like for you exploring Australian produce, having spent much of your career abroad?
It's been amazing to come back to this side of the world. I had lived in Australia back in 2010, but just to see the growth and all the amazing farmers, all the amazing, going down to the oyster farms when I first arrived, to travelling out to Perth to go and see the truffle farms. I think produce over here it's amazing now.
Take us back to when you were young. You're from New Zealand originally. What sort of role did food play in your family?
Everyone sort of asked me how I got into being a chef. And I remember back at primary school, we did this thing called an enterprise project where you had to come up with a business idea, and all the parents would come in on one night and change all their money into funny money. So the business idea I sort of came up with was to make chocolates and fudges and wrap them up in cellophane and sell them at the school fair. So Mum sort of helped me with that when I was younger, and after that I was sort of like, well, this is what I wanted to do. So at about the age of 8, I already knew I wanted to be a chef, and I sort of set my sights on that.
What were your first steps into the industry? What was it like?
First steps, I was 14. There was a little cafe right next door to my house where I was growing up, in a little village called Encore back in New Zealand. And I started washing dishes there on the weekend. The owner was 74 years old. He was there every morning making his pies. And I think I just got a really good work ethic from starting off there, just right at the bottom, starting in the cafe. From there, I sort of got there was another chef called Huey Blues who had a cafe in Waitangi, and he sort of took me under his wing when I was 15 and started doing competitions. And and at 19 he sort of said, well, it's enough of these competitions. It's time to go out and see the big bad world and see what it's actually like overseas. And he sort of told me I had to get out of here and get on my way. So I did. Ended up in Melbourne.
Well, tell us about that experience. You joined the team at Mays by Gordon Ramsay, which had a short lifespan in Melbourne. But what was that like?
It was a good stepping stone. Josh Emmett was the head chef at the time. He'd sort of just come back from New York, where he was running Gordon's flagship over there for almost 10 years. I think he was based in the States. So it was a good stepping stone into the Gordon Ramsay group. I knew that I wanted to go to Hospital Road. That was just my first touch point to get into the group. And when it did close, I was already on my way to Hospital Road. So it was a good learning curve. A bigger kitchen instead of a little cafe.
Restaurant Gordon Ramsay is one of the most influential restaurants on the planet. It's been 3 Michelin stars for 20 odd years. What was it like working in that kitchen?
I loved it. I loved it to pieces. It is my foundation to who I am today. It's a hard kitchen, no doubt about it. But if you look at the talent that's come out of that kitchen, it's undeniable that for how hard it is to work there, it produces talent. I think the old saying is pressure creates diamonds, and it definitely did. And I loved it. The opportunity to work under Clare when she was head chef there, but also Matt as well. They really sculptured me and drove me to want to be the best. And I think working in that sort of environment with a lot of people around me, Buddha Lowe, who you've had on before, I think. Buddha was there as well. There's just a lot of people that are starting to come through as head chefs now. Were there when I was there. Kim, who's the head chef there now, under Matt, she was part of that team when I was making my way through the ranks. So we had an amazing team. I really loved it there.
Do you have any stories of what it's like working in a kitchen like that and maintaining those standards at Restaurant Gordon Ramsay?
Stories. I think Claire, just when Claire was in charge there, I think she just taught me the point of respecting the produce and understanding that the lineage of where it's come from. It's not just potato that turns up. Someone's actually taken the time to grow it. It's taken months and months. They've got to dig that potato up. They've got to put it onto a truck. The supplier's got to then deliver it to you. So you've got to respect every single piece of ingredient that comes into the building. You need to really look after it. And I think the standards start from the ingredients. And they finish on the plate. So I think that was just something that Claire taught me, is to really respect the produce.
Gordon Ramsay is one of the most well-known people on the planet, let alone chefs. Do you have any stories or moments where you've had interactions with him while you were there?
At Hospital Road, not as much. I did a couple of events with him. I spent Christmas Day with Gordon, cooking at his house. He normally has a Christmas dinner with the Beckhams, so that was pretty cool to do. Went to Norway back in 2016 to a place called Trondheim, and we did an event for 500 people, and that was pretty full on to see the Gordon Ramsay effect. It was pretty amazing. But he's so in touch with what happens in the industry, and he knows what's going on. And I think people sometimes give him a lot of slack as being a TV chef, but that's not the case. Like, Gordon's very, very down to earth. He knows what's happening in the industry. He's very in touch with what's happening. So it was pretty cool to do an event that size with Gordon. I remember we ran out of plates, and he was pretty calm, to be fair. Managed to get everything organised. So it was cool. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I need to take you back a little bit. Not many people cook Christmas dinner for the Beckhams or the Ramsays. Tell us about that day. What did you cook?
Oh, that would be hard for me to remember exactly what we did. I do remember we needed to cook some fish, and it needed to be very well done. That's what we were told, and it wasn't quite well done. So Gordon had to get up and basically boil the fish. I won't say who it was for, but it was a bit of a funny one, but it was cool. I really enjoyed the experience, and the times that I did get to be around Gordon they were cool experiences, I must say. He's a nice guy. Even doing some filming with him at Christmas was cool as well.
You spent a bit of time in New York at 11 Madison Park. How did that come about?
I was sort of looking for where to go next after Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. I always sort of, whenever I had a holiday, I'd always go to another country and do stages. So I ended up staging at Alinea. I staged at Grace. I went to 11 Madison Park, and I went to Danielle as well. And also per se at the time. So every time I would take a holiday, I'd try and go to another country, stage, and those stages would sort of, I'd start working out where I wanted to go from there. And 11 Madison Park was a restaurant that was sponsoring at the time. So I finished up my time at Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. I went to Bordeaux for 3 months, part of the Gordon Ramsay group, and during that time I was sort of organising my visa to go out to 11 Madison Park, and then I headed out there, must have been August 2015. So I sort of turned up at a great time when 11 Madison Park just was winning World's 50 Best, and they were also doing their refurb, so we went out to the Hamptons for the summer. So it was a pretty cool time to be part of that restaurant, to be fair. To see the old 11 Madison Park and the new 11 Madison Park emerge was amazing.
You mentioned some pretty incredible restaurants in the US. Tell us how different they were and also compared to the experiences you'd had in London.
I mean, yeah, each one I went to was very different. Grace, which unfortunately is not there anymore, which was Curtis Duffy's restaurant, is very much based around the Linea. Like I started at Grace first, and then I went and started at Linea. And Curtis Duffy had worked for Grant Achatz for quite some time when they first opened Linea, and you could just see it was very similar. The similarities were almost spooky. It was almost like the same kitchen, and that was awesome to see. I think at Danielle's it wasn't quite what I wanted to do, so that made it a lot easier for me to decide to go to 11 Madison Park. But at EMP, I think the thing I learned there was a lot more management and structure and how to run big teams. We were looking at 50 chefs in the kitchen. We were running off 3 different teams. So I think there was a lot of, you had to be organised to be able to, and you had to have good communication because you had an AM and a PM, so you had a partner on your section. You needed to be communicating towards that person. I think when I was there, if I was on the AM, I was always trying to set my PM partner up. I was always trying to make sure I got more done and to leave that person with as little prep to do as possible. I don't think it's not always the way that works in the kitchen. Sometimes you walk in the morning and your partner's stitched you up and you've got no mise en place and you've got to run around. But I always tried to do the opposite. I'd rather be the one to be standing there saying, when the person walks in, going, "Nah, you've got nothing to do, mate. You could focus on service." And I think that sort of driving that mentality is a good way to think for the team. It's not just yourself. You're trying to do as much for the team as possible.
Tell us about your time with the Franson Group.
Amazing. For me, I put Franson as one of the top 5 restaurants in the world, for sure. It was definitely, if I look at all the restaurants I have worked in, each one is very different and each one taught me very differently. I think from Franson, from Bjorn himself, I just learned another way of management. He was very calm. He was very, when something went wrong, it was all about how to deal with it in a positive way and not stress out or not lose your head about it. For a story's sake, I remember a piece of fish went out with clean film on it. God forbid that happens, but it did. The reactions that I'd seen in the past would be you'd absolutely lose it. But he was just like, okay, we're gonna do an extra course. We're gonna go across. We're gonna make a joke. This one's got no clean film on it, And it was just like, oh, this is a very different way of doing things. I think also just looking at him as a businessman, he's very smart about what he's doing. I have a lot of admiration for Bjorn for sure.
This episode is proudly supported by Montague. handpicked for you.
The things that we're really looking for in plums, first of all, they've got to be sweet. We're really looking for a full flavour explosion in our plums. Red flesh is critically important to us, higher in antioxidants, so all that good stuff. And then we're also looking to add a slightly firmer texture. So there's almost a little crunch. That's the real driver for us.
For more information, go to montague.com.au.
You've worked in some incredible restaurants, but also very hard kitchens as well. Have you seen the culture change a lot, especially now that you're running one of Australia's best restaurants?
I think you have to lead by example. You have to, there's a lot more focus on making sure how the team is feeling and making sure that everyone's in a good mindset. I'm very much about that as we move, when we're about to start service. I try getting everyone, 15 minutes before we start service, we should be set, we should be boxed off. And there should be this almost this 15-minute gap where there's a bit of zen within the kitchen where everyone knows they're ready to go. And then once you're into service, it just flows. Yeah, I've been in kitchens before where you're not set, and it's chaos, and it's a horrible environment when it's like that. If you're not ready for service, then it becomes chaotic. And I'm very much the opposite way. After so many different kitchens and stuff, I always want the kitchen to be, by the time we hit that service period at 12 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, it's calm. It's quiet, and everyone knows they're set. Everyone knows they have the mise en place ready to go into service. I think that just allows us to cook at a higher level and to deliver a better experience. I think when you're having to run off and you're still trying to organise your mise en place and it's 7 o'clock and the first mains are getting called away, it's just not a clear mindset to be having. So I think that's something that kitchen-wise, I always make sure that my guys are at that period. It's hectic in the morning, we're busy getting set up, but once we hit service time, it should be calm, it should be quiet, it should be very focused to make sure that we deliver at the highest standard possible.
You mentioned the influence of Clare Smyth early on and throughout your career, but how did you reconnect with her?
So Chef talked to me about this project opening in Australia back in when was it, June 2019. So that was into my first year of being at Franson. And I had made the commitments to Marcus, who was the head chef when I first moved over there, that I would do 2 years. I'm sort of very much a man of my word, and if I shake someone's hand and say I'm going to do 2 years, I'm going to stick to it. So I said to Claire, I can't come yet. I made this commitment, but I'm happy to come in 2020. And everybody knows what happened in 2020. The world flipped upside down, and so I found myself trying to move from Sweden to London to then Sydney during the middle of COVID. So that made it all the more interesting. I think for the actual time I spent at Encore after I left France, and I think the restaurant was open. Core was open for maybe 4 weeks total, in and out of lockdown. So actually coming over here, I probably had, I think even just doing service on the pass in London, like calling the pass, I think I did 2 services before I came out here. So it was, it was pretty full on. But yeah, so she'd asked me to come out June 2019, and from there we started working on getting me out here. So
how did you feel coming out here to sort of run a pretty important restaurant for Clare Smyth, but that sort of reconnection was so sort of jolted, and you didn't really get much time on the pans with her in London?
I didn't really put much. I mean, yeah, this whole last year and a half, I have never really thought about what we managed to achieve and what we did do. When I was in London, I was literally on standby for almost 3 months. My bags were packed, sitting at the door, and I was given 24 hours notice that I was flying out here. Arriving here, I knew not a single person. I'd never been to Sydney before. I'd never seen the restaurants, and there was no support coming out because of the COVID situation. So but the thing was, I never thought about it. I knew what I had to do. I knew what the standard was. I'd spent so long working in kitchens. I think my training just set me up for, I knew this is what you have to do. There's no point feeling sorry for yourself or looking at the situation and thinking it's impossible to achieve this. I just was like, I'm going to do it. And I think I just put as many hours, and I just worked. It was the only way to get this the restaurant off the ground, was just to put my head down and just go. To be the only person to have seen Core, and to be able to then make 50 people believe in that vision is, you have to have a team that trusts you, and that's something that I was really, very grateful for.
What did you think of the culinary landscape of Sydney when you arrived? Were there any restaurants that really stood out to you?
Oh, there's so many restaurants over here that are amazing. Fire Door, who just won Restaurant of the Year. They're amazing. So I always enjoy going to eat there. Even if you look at places like Key, they still inspire me. Peter Gilmore's been around for so long. We've stood at the awards a couple of weeks back, and I remember looking at his book when I was 15 years old, the first Key book. So they still inspire me. I think the landscape over here is amazing, and I look at all the restaurants that are here. I'm just inspired by them. I don't see that anyone has competition, especially coming off the back of COVID. I think there's a need to create an even stronger hospitality industry. We've had to go through a lot. I think it's about working together as a team, as an industry, to make our industry even better.
Clare Smyth's credentials are extraordinary, but was there a lot of pressure and tact in the way that you created Encore in Sydney, considering the success in London and also landing in a new city that's got an amazing restaurant offering already?
There's always pressure doing these sort of things, but I guess it's down to how much you want to focus on the pressure or focus on the job at hand. And I didn't even think about it. I just put my head down and just went. I think it was just more have trust in my team, and also have trust in what I've learned and what we're doing. It was, the restaurant's amazing. I sort of always think about it. Claire gave me the keys to a Ferrari. It's been I've been part of a Formula One team. Everyone's got these amazing cars, but you still got to go out and drive them. You still got to go out and want to be the best. And that was sort of the mindset I had. Everything was there for me to achieve what we had to, but I had to put the hard work in. As simple as that.
Encore received 3 chef hats, which in Australia are like Michelin stars. What was the lead up to that like, and what did it feel like when it was announced that the restaurant would win that?
I think we'd always said to ourselves, we only had one chance of the first year, and we really wanted to put our heads down and make it a special restaurant and try getting it off the ground as quickly as possible. Everyone put a lot of time into Encore. Everyone worked really hard, and I think through doing that, the accolades sort of come later. And I think on the night it was a sense of relief for all of us, because we knew what we wanted to do, we knew what we were trying to achieve, and I think there was just a pat on the back to say, yeah, you guys have done it. To achieve that, I'm forever grateful for my team for believing in the vision that we had when we came over here and trusting in what we were trying to do. So I think that's, to achieve 3 hats in the first year is just is all down to my team at the end of the day.
Is there a dish or two that you have on the menu at the moment that you can tell us about that sort of exemplifies your cooking and the offering there at Encore?
I think the menu's still very much Claire's in regards to the dishes and stuff that we're doing, and her philosophy and her heritage. But I think coming to Sydney, it was about trying to find the ingredients in Australia and trying to replicate those same sort of dishes but using Australian ingredients. The potato and roe was the first dish I came over and had to work on, and being able to find the Hill family down in the Southern Highlands, go down and see them. The farmer, I can't remember his name right now. I think it's Jack. He's in his 80s and he's hand grading the potatoes every single day for us. Also, Wentworth is grading the potatoes for us, and he's in his 80s and he doesn't get them all right. He just does it by weight because he's done it picks one potato out at the right size, and he goes through with his other hand, and he scales it next to it manually. It's a nice story. Even the beef and oyster dish that's on the menu, finding blackmore beef and the Sydney rock oysters, they're just amazing. The quality of produce is fantastic over here. So I think, there's no two dishes that would really show what I do as a chef. I think it's more showing what we do as a restaurant by using the amazing ingredients that are over here.
What impact has it had on you living back down in this part of the world?
It's not really much changed, to be fair. I've just thrown the last 2 years. I've just thrown myself into work. So I don't think there's really been much change to what I do coming back down to this side of the world. If anything, I just haven't been able to travel as much. Europe's not as accessible from Sydney, that's for sure.
Well, you're doing amazing things down under since you've been here. What do you love about what you do?
The people I get to work with, the suppliers I get to work with. I think hospitality at the end of the day is all about people. And I have an amazing team around me. Michael Stuart, our restaurant manager, has been there since day one. We've been through the highs and the lows together. We've had bust-ups in the back, and I think, the people that I've managed to meet here along the way is amazing. I think people like Michael and the team that we have, we're willing to look each other in the eye and say when things aren't right and say that we need to be better, and we take it on the chin. We turn up the next day because we want to make the best experience for our guests. But also we want to do our producers proud, all our suppliers. I think it's about showing respect for what they do. At the end of the day, the chef's just the final touch to the amazing ingredient. And it's an honor on our part to be able to serve such amazing ingredients that come from our suppliers. But then it's also an amazing to be able to have so many amazing chefs, also front of house in our team, and for them to show off their craft as well and their skills.
Well, Alan, it's amazing what you're doing, and it's an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear a part of your story. Good luck with everything that you're doing. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.